Have you ever felt like things were going great with a woman, and then out of nowhere she said something that completely threw you off? A question? A challenge? A comment that seemed to come from left field? Most guys think they already know why she tests them. Most guys are dead wrong, because what looks like a game is usually something entirely different. And if you misread it, you could be killing the attraction without even knowing it. The truth behind why she tests you is way more surprising than most men think. And once you get what she's actually looking for, you'll never look at these situations the same way again. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and join our community of men who are learning the psychology behind attraction, confidence, and relationships. We're working toward our goal of 1,000 subscribers, and your support helps us keep putting out videos that most men never get a chance to hear. Topic 1. The biggest lie men believe about female tests. One of the biggest mistakes a guy can make is thinking that every test a woman throws at him is some kind of mind game. Somewhere along the way, a lot of men were told that women sit around coming up with traps just to make their lives harder. So when a woman pushes back on an opinion, makes a playful remark, or reacts in a way he didn't see coming, he immediately assumes she's trying to manipulate him. But here's the part most men never stop to consider. What if she's not trying to control him at all? What if she's simply trying to figure out who he really is underneath all the surface-level stuff? Think about it for a second. People show their true colors when things don't go according to plan. It's easy to come across as confident when everything's rolling your way. It's easy to seem chill when everyone agrees with you. But what happens when someone pushes back? What happens when things don't go the way you expected? In those moments, the mask tends to slip. And whether she's fully aware of it or not, a woman often learns more about a man from one small moment of tension than from hours of smooth, easy conversation. A smart man understands that attraction is rarely built on words alone. Anyone can say they're confident. Anyone can claim they've got it together emotionally. The real question is whether those qualities hold up when the pressure's on. This is where a lot of men completely miss what's actually going on. Because what looks like a harmless joke, a little disagreement, or an unexpected reaction might actually be revealing something way more important. And once you understand what she's really paying attention to, you'll start seeing these situations through a totally different lens. Topic 2. She's not testing your words. She's testing your emotional stability. One reason so many guys struggle with female tests is that they assume there's a right answer hiding somewhere in the conversation. When a woman asks a tough question, throws out a teasing comment, or pushes back on something he said, his brain immediately starts hunting for the perfect response. He gets tunnel vision on saying the right thing, but in most cases she's not evaluating his answer nearly as much as she's evaluating his reaction. And that one small difference changes everything. Picture this. A woman jokingly says, "You probably say that to every girl." An insecure guy rushes to defend himself, over-explains his intentions, or bends over backwards trying to convince her otherwise. A man with real emotional stability reacts differently. He doesn't get defensive because his sense of self isn't hanging on her approval. He gets that not every comment needs a courtroom-style defense. Sometimes confidence shows up not in what a man says, but in what he doesn't feel the need to prove. That's why emotional stability is one of the most attractive qualities a man can build. It signals strength without aggression and confidence without arrogance. It tells people that a little pressure isn't going to knock him off his feet. The funny thing is, these moments are often so subtle that most men don't even clock that they're happening. But those small reactions can give away insecurities, fears, and emotional patterns that words alone could never expose. And once you see the pattern hidden inside these interactions, you'll start to understand the silent question a lot of women are really trying to answer. Topic 3. The hidden question behind every test. Most guys think women are looking for specific answers. They figure she's trying to find out if he's funny enough, successful enough, confident enough, or interesting enough. But underneath a lot of these tests, questions, and observations, there's something way deeper going on. There's an invisible question that almost never gets asked out loud, because words alone can't answer it. And that question is actually pretty simple. Who does he become when life stops going his way? Think about how people usually present themselves when they're trying to make a good impression. They put their best foot forward. They pick their words carefully. They hide their fears and their weak spots. In the early stages of attraction, both people are usually showing a polished, cleaned-up version of themselves. The problem is that real relationships aren't built in the easy moments. They're built in the moments of uncertainty, disagreement, frustration, disappointment, and pressure. So, consciously or not, a lot of women pay close attention to how a man handles those situations, because that's where his real character shows up. A man might come across as totally confident when things are comfortable, but what happens when someone challenges him? Does he get defensive? Does he start fishing for validation? Does he lose his cool? Or does he stay grounded and secure in who he is? This is why seemingly small interactions often carry way more weight than men realize. They can reveal whether confidence is the real deal or just a performance. And once you understand this hidden question, something else starts to make sense. Why some women will deliberately create little moments of tension, even when everything seems to be going perfectly fine. Topic 4. Why she creates tension on purpose. One of the most confusing things for a lot of guys is when everything seems to be going great, and then all of a sudden a woman says something unexpected. Maybe she teases him. Maybe she disagrees over something small. Maybe she drops a comment that feels like a little bit of a challenge. His first reaction is usually, why would she even do that? After all, if the vibe is good, shouldn't things stay smooth and easy? Surprisingly, that's not how human nature works. Sometimes people learn the most about each other when comfort gets briefly interrupted. A woman might playfully challenge a man's opinion about a movie, a sports team, or even something he personally believes in. On the surface, the topic itself might seem totally irrelevant, but the topic usually isn't the point. The reaction is. Does he get irritated? Does he immediately back down just to dodge disagreement? Does he dig his heels in just to prove he's right? Or can he stay relaxed, confident, and even enjoy the back and forth? Those small moments can reveal emotional habits that would otherwise stay buried for weeks or even months. That's why tension isn't always a red flag that something's going wrong. In healthy interactions, a little tension can actually bring clarity. It pulls hidden traits out into the open. Think of it like stress testing a bridge before thousands of cars start driving across it. The goal isn't to destroy the bridge. The goal is to find out just how strong it actually is, and once a man understands why these moments happen, he becomes a lot less reactive. More importantly, he starts to notice a specific kind of test that quietly costs men attraction, without them ever catching on. Topic 5. The confidence test most men fail. If there's one test that quietly exposes a man's level of confidence, it's what happens when his opinions get challenged. Not because the opinion itself matters so much, but because the challenge creates pressure. All of a sudden he feels the urge to defend himself, explain himself, or convince the other person he's right. And that's exactly where a lot of men unknowingly show their hand. They think they're standing their ground, but they're actually revealing how much they need other people's validation to feel okay about themselves. Picture a man who says he loves spending his weekends hiking instead of hitting crowded parties. A woman laughs and says, "That sounds kind of boring." The confident man doesn't flinch. He doesn't ditch his preference just to seem more appealing. He doesn't launch into a whole speech defending his lifestyle. He just stays comfortable with who he is. And ironically, that comfort is usually way more attractive than the hobby itself. People are naturally drawn to someone who doesn't need permission to be themselves. Now, this doesn't mean being stubborn or shutting out other points of view. Real confidence isn't about winning every argument. It's about staying secure in yourself even when someone sees things differently. A confident man can absolutely change his mind when he hears something worth considering, but he doesn't change who he is just to earn someone's approval. And once a woman picks up on that kind of grounded self-respect, she often starts looking for something even deeper. Because confidence on its own isn't enough. The next thing she pays attention to can say way more about a man's character than any conversation ever could. The week 6, the 2 things she's always watching. A lot of men assume that attraction is built almost entirely through direct interaction. They zero in on what they say, how they look, and how they act when a woman is paying attention. What they usually don't realize is that some of the most important observations happen when they're not actively trying to impress anyone at all. A woman might learn more about a man's character from a handful of ordinary moments than from an entire evening of carefully planned conversation. And there are two things she tends to notice more than most men ever expect. The first is how he treats people who have nothing to offer him. The waiter at a restaurant, the cashier at the checkout, the friend who disagrees with him, the stranger who makes a mistake. Anyone can turn on the charm when there's something to gain. Character comes out when there isn't. A man who treats others with respect, patience, and basic human decency shows a level of emotional maturity that can't be faked for very long. On the flip side, arrogance tends to slip out in the small moments people assume no one's watching. But someone usually is. The second thing she watches is how he handles his own boundaries. Does he constantly put his own needs on the back burner to avoid letting people down? Does he go along with everything just to keep the peace? Or can he respectfully hold his ground when something actually matters to him? Healthy boundaries communicate self-respect. They show that a man values himself without needing to push anyone else around. And when genuine respect for others is paired with genuine respect for himself, something powerful starts to come through. That's when a lot of women stop wondering whether they like a man and start asking themselves something far more interesting. Topic 7. When a test is actually a sign of interest. One of the most surprising truths about female tests is that they're not always a bad sign. In fact, a lot of men make the mistake of thinking that any challenge, teasing comment, or unexpected behavior means a woman is losing interest. Sometimes it's the complete opposite. Think about it. People don't usually invest their time, energy, and attention in someone they couldn't care less about. When there's genuine curiosity, observation naturally follows. And when observation follows, small tests tend to show up on their own. That said, not every test is healthy, and that's worth keeping in mind. There's a real difference between genuine curiosity and straight-up manipulative behavior. A healthy test usually happens organically. It feels more like exploration than control. A woman might playfully challenge a man, question something he said, or create a small moment of uncertainty just to get a better read on him. Manipulation, on the other hand, is designed to create confusion, insecurity, or dependency. The difference might seem subtle at first, but understanding it can save a man from misreading situations that could have actually turned into something real. A lot of men have blown opportunities because they misread what was happening. They saw a challenge and assumed rejection. They saw a disagreement and assumed she was no longer interested. They saw a test and assumed they were under attack. But sometimes a woman isn't trying to push a man away at all. She's trying to figure out if there's more to him than what she's seen on the surface. And that realization leads to maybe the most important insight of all. Because once a man understands what she's truly searching for, he stops obsessing over passing tests and starts focusing on something way more valuable. Topic 8. What she's actually looking for all along. After breaking down all these different kinds of tests, a surprising pattern starts to emerge. On the surface, the situations might look completely unrelated. One moment she's teasing him. The next, she's questioning an opinion. Then she's watching how he treats other people, or how he handles disagreement. To most men, these moments feel totally random. But underneath all of them, she's usually looking for the same handful of qualities. Not perfection, not flawless answers, not a guy who always knows exactly the right thing to say. Something way deeper than that. What a lot of women are truly after is emotional safety. Not just physical safety, emotional safety. Can this man keep his cool when life gets stressful? Can he handle challenges without becoming hostile, defensive, or all over the place emotionally? Can he stay true to himself without constantly needing everyone around him to validate him? These qualities build a kind of trust that goes way beyond attraction. Because while confidence might catch her eye, consistency is what allows real trust to grow over time. Maybe the biggest misconception men have is thinking that success with women comes down to learning the right techniques. They go hunting for perfect responses, clever strategies, and secret formulas. But the strongest position a man can ever be in is authenticity. When a man genuinely knows who he is, respects himself, treats people well, and stays emotionally grounded under pressure, a lot of these tests simply lose their grip on him. And that's the great irony. The men who spend the least energy worrying about passing tests are usually the exact men who pass them naturally. Conclusion. When it's all said and done, this was never really about learning how to pass a woman's tests. It was about becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to perform, put on a front, or constantly look for someone else's approval. Think about it. How many opportunities have slipped away because of overthinking? How many unnecessary doubts were created by trying to say the perfect thing instead of just being real? The men who build the strongest attraction are rarely the ones with the best lines. They're the ones who stay confident, grounded, and true to themselves when the pressure shows up. So here's something worth sitting with. When was the last time you felt tested by a woman? And how did you handle it? Did you stay calm and confident, or did you find yourself scrambling to prove something? Be real with yourself, because that answer might reveal more than you think. Growth starts the moment a man stops blaming the situation and starts taking a hard look at his own reactions. If you got something out of this video, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos on psychology, attraction, confidence, and relationships. And if this video changed the way you see female tests, drop a comment below with the word confidence. I'd love to know your biggest takeaway from today. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.